Hi guys. Alright, so some things I forgot to mention in my last video, so I decided to make another about the Ken Kratz press conference. Like I said, I'm not going to go into the details of what he said, just that all the things that he said that Brendan confessed to were never used in trial. Not one bit of it. Nothing that Brendan said, none of the parts of the confession, none of the supposed evidence that was found because of Brendan's confession were used. Nothing was used in Stephen Avery's trial. Brendan Dassey did not testify, partly because he refused to lie and tell that story again. Luckily, by the time it had gone to court, he'd been informed rightly that the story that he was coerced to give was obviously untrue. And by talking to attorneys who believed him and gave him good advice finally, who weren't working against him, we're able to tell him, you do not need to take a plea deal and go and testify against your uncle. You do not need to say those things again that are not true. I think it's very important that people understand or know that confession that Brendan gave, it came to be through several interviews and interrogations of Brendan in the previous couple of days. Like within 2 days, he was interviewed and interrogated several times, and that was the end result of all the little seed planting that they did throughout the course of talking with Brendan and feeding him information. And if you go and look, yes, they actually do feed him every single bit of it. Except for small, silly details. I mean, I don't want to call them silly, but they're completely untrue. Not one single bit of it can be backed up with real evidence. And I think that's probably the biggest reason why they couldn't use Brendan at Stephen's trial. Kratz waited until the last minute, and finally the defense had to go to court and demand that the judge do something to make them make a decision. Are you going to bring Brendan in or not? Because they had been building their case and their defense based on the fact that Brendan was going to come in and testify to this confession against Stephen. So they had, of course, their experts that they never got to use that could prove why this was not a real confession. It was a false confession. And there's a lot more going on with that. Unfortunately, that expert was never used even in Brendan's trial, even though it was made available to them. But the most important thing to remember is that all of that press conference was based on a confession that could not be backed up by one single bit of evidence. Every bit of it was either fed to Brendan or was guessed. If he, I'll give you a specific example, which we've heard probably a million times now, but this is very true. It is probably the best example. There was 2 pieces of evidence, I believe, that were not released to the public. One of them was that they believe Teresa was shot. The other was that they found Stephen's DNA under the hood latch. Those 2 things were not released to the public. And you can see very, very clearly, if you watch the interrogation, the detectives feed that information to Brendan. He does not offer it because he doesn't know about it. It's very clear that he's guessing, which is why you've got stabbing, throat cutting, cutting hair, choking, what else? Uh, so much ridiculous list of things that they finally had to stop Brendan because they're asking him, Brendan, what happened to her head? Specifically, with her head, what happened to her head? And he's giving them all, we strangled her. We cut her. We cut her hair. Cut her neck, cut her hair. All these things that Brendan offered, not one of them could be proven. He was guessing, just like he said he was. He was guessing, and he couldn't guess the thing that they were after, which was that she was shot in the head. That's what they believe that they had. I still question whether or not that's actually a bullet hole in the skull fragment. But let's just say, for argument's sake, it is. That was their number one piece of evidence that they withheld from the public. This is not something that Brendan could have known, like he was, it was all over the news that the car was found down in the pit at the salvage yard. He knew that. That the fact that it was covered up with branches and the hood and all this other stuff, he knew that because it was all over the news. There's bones found in the burn pit. He knew that because it was on the news. He saw all this for several months on the news before they brought him in for this 2-day questioning, interrogation, to bring him in because he's Stephen's alibi. He is one of Stephen's only alibis, and they needed to do everything that they could to discredit Stephen and his alibi because they really they never have and never have had any real evidence to put Teresa in the trailer, put Teresa in the garage. There's no evidence of a rape at all, which is one of the reasons why those charges were dropped against Stephen, because no one could prove a rape. No one could prove that she was cut, tied to the bed, that she was ever in the trailer at all, and certainly not that she was killed in there. Same with the garage. There is zero proof that she was killed in the garage as well, aside from the little bullet fragment, which can easily be explained, and not because she was shot there. 22 rounds are not supposed to go through a skull. They're supposed to go in there, bounce around, and not exit because they don't have the speed, velocity, whatever it is, the power to go through 2 walls of skull, which is why they're good for shooting rabbits and things. They don't exit the body, blah, blah, blah. They go around and do a bunch of damage inside, and they stay there. I'm not going to say there is no way that bullet exited even at point blank range. It's very unlikely that it did go through her skull. The biggest problem with that is that there is no blood, there's no tissue, there's no hair, there is nothing on that bullet fragment except for DNA. An unknown source of DNA. This could be from rubbing her toothbrush on it. This could be from putting anything that she came into contact with on that bullet, just rubbing it against it and dropping it on the floor. I mean, I know that sounds really unlikely. Why would they do that? Because they believe that Stephen is guilty. They need evidence. They don't have it. It's been months. They can't put her in the house or the garage. No matter what they try to do, there is no blood. No one, not even a professional crime scene person, could clean up the amount of blood that would be in a location if there was a rape, a stabbing, throat cutting, hair cutting, shooting, all of these things going on. There's no way to clean up that much blood. The little teeny tiny little sprays that you can't even see with your naked eye. The ones that will show up when luminol is sprayed all over the place. You can see where things have been cleaned up. You can see where things still are. You can find the blood. There was nothing. Okay, so nothing on the mattresses, nothing on the carpet, nothing on the walls, nothing on the bed anywhere. Nothing at all that suggests that she was ever tied to that bed, raped there, including the handcuffs that she was supposedly restrained with, the rope, all these things. Her DNA is not on them, but other people's DNA is on them. Her DNA would be there. There would be marks on the bed frame, which I know for sure, not this bed, but I have almost the exact same bed that belonged to my grandmother. That wood is very easily scratched. So, if I can do it with fingernails, you can definitely do it with metal handcuffs that are, put there. I mean, there's no way that there's not markings on the headboard or the footboard anywhere. This just did not happen. And Kratz knew that. Very, very, very well knew that. And that's the part that makes me so mad, is because, first of all, he should be charged for what he did. That is, it's a criminal violation. It's a I don't know what the hell it's called, but it's not legal what he did. He knowingly told the media all this crap that could not be proved, and they knew that by the time he made that statement. He knew very well that there was no blood in that house or garage. He knew very well that there was no semen, no anything, no hair, no nothing in the house or the garage that belonged to Teresa. The only thing that he might not have known is, some of the other details of what Brendan shared with them. If he would have put it together, if he would have taken more time, because less than 24 hours after this confession, Kratz is on the news spreading this lie. And it, like I said, it was done purely to taint the jury pool, to destroy the opinion in the public of Stephen Avery. And that's so unfair. I'm going to link a document that shows, if you look at page 161 is where it starts at, all the violations that were done by Ken Kratz by having this press conference, because he absolutely did violate this, and he knows that. And I still don't know how there are no charges brought against him yet, but hopefully there will be. Again, I want to mention Get a Clue TV, or Clue TV, Clue TV. Gonna put links to Clue TV and to the GoFundMe in the description. Hopefully we can get this started so we can get some real equipment, get some real investigations going, besides just being in separate places. So much is planned for this, so please help us out, get us going, check it out. Can't wait to get working on other cases as well. So thanks for watching.